Thank you very much. Thank you very much. You know, I've been here before. You do know that. Before the big day on November 8th, I was here. I want to thank Mark Meadows and all of the folks that have really made this possible. And Tony, tremendous guy. We have some incredible people that we love and that we're involved with. So we all know that. And I'm being followed by Mr. Bennett. You know that, right? And I've been watching him say nice things about me before I knew him. Those are the ones I like, where they speak well of you before you know them, right? But I really want to thank everybody and Tony for your extraordinary leadership of this organization. And I want to thank also Luana for your dedication to the faith community and to our nation. Works so hard. It's great to be back here with so many friends at the 2017 Values Voter Summit, and we know what that means. We know what that means. America is a nation of believers, and together we are strengthened and sustained by the power of prayer. True. As we gather for this tremendous event, our hearts remain sad and heavy for the victims of the horrific mass murder last week in Las Vegas. It was an act of pure evil. But in the wake of such horror, we also witnessed the true character of our nation. A mother laid on top of her daughter to shield her from gunfire. A husband died to protect his beloved wife. Strangers rescued strangers. Police officers, and you saw that, all of those incredible police officers, how brave they were, how great they were running into fire. And first responders, they rushed right into danger. Americans defied evil and hatred with courage and love. The men and women who risked their lives to save their fellow citizens gave proof to the words of this scripture. The light shines in the darkness, and the darkness has not overcome it. All of America is praying for the wounded and the grieving, and we will be with them today, and we will be with them forever. Just want to finish by saying really, and we understand it was so horrific to watch and so terrible, but to those who lost the ones they love, we know that we cannot erase your pain, but we promise to never, ever leave your side. We are one nation, and we all hurt together, we hope together, and we heal together. We also stand with the millions of people who have suffered from the massive fires which are right now raging in California and the catastrophic hurricanes along the Gulf Coast in Puerto Rico, the Virgin Islands. And I will tell you, I left Texas, and I left Florida, and I left Louisiana, and I went to Puerto Rico, and I met with the president of the Virgin Islands. These are people that are incredible people. They've suffered gravely, and we'll be there. We're going to be there. We have really, it's not even a question of a choice. We don't even want a choice. We're going to be there as Americans, and we love those people and what they've gone through. And they're all healing, and their states and territories are healing, and they're healing rapidly. In the wake of the terrible tragedies of the past several weeks, the American people have responded with goodness and generosity and bravery. You've seen it. The heroism of everyday citizens reminds us that the true strength of our nation is found in the hearts and souls of our people. When America is unified, no force on earth can break us apart. We love our families. We love our neighbors. We love our country. Everyone here today is brought together by the same shared and timeless values. We cherish the sacred dignity of every human life. We believe in strong families and safe communities. We honor the dignity of work. We defend our Constitution. We protect religious liberty. We treasure our freedom. We are proud of our history. We support the rule of law and the incredible men and women of law enforcement. We celebrate our heroes, and we salute every American who wears the uniform. We respect our great American flag. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. And we stand united behind the customs, beliefs, and traditions that define who we are as a nation and as a people. George Washington said that religion and morality are indispensable to America's happiness, really prosperity, and totally to its success. It is our faith and our values that inspires us to give with charity, to act with courage, and to sacrifice for what we know is right. The American founders invoked our Creator 4 times in the Declaration of Independence, 4 times. How times have changed, but you know what? Now they're changing back again. Just remember that. Benjamin Franklin reminded his colleagues at the Constitutional Convention to begin by bowing their heads in prayer. Religious liberty is enshrined in the very First Amendment of the Bill of Rights, and we all pledge allegiance to, very, very beautifully, one nation under God. This is America's heritage, a country that never forgets that we are all, every one of us, made by the same God in heaven. When I came to speak with you last year, I made you a promise. Well, one of the promises I made you was that I'd come back. See? And I don't even need your vote this year, right? That's even nicer. But I pledge that in a Trump administration, our nation's religious heritage would be cherished, protected, and defended like you have never seen before. That's what's happening. That's what's happening. You see it every day. You're reading it. So this morning, I am honored and thrilled to return as the first sitting president to address this incredible gathering of friends, so many friends. So many friends. And I'll ask Tony and all of our people that do such a great job in putting this event together, can I take next year off or not? Or do I have to be back? I don't know. Huh? He's saying, they're saying no. Luana's saying no. So that means no. So I'm here to thank you for your support and to share with you how we are delivering on that promise, defending our shared values, and in so doing, how we are renewing the America we love. In the last 10 months, we have followed through on one promise after another. I didn't have a schedule, but if I did have a schedule, I would say we are substantially ahead of schedule. Some of those promises are to support and defend the Constitution. I appointed and confirmed a Supreme Court justice in the mold of the late, great Justice Antonin Scalia, the newest member of the Supreme Court, Justice Neil Gorsuch. To protect the unborn, I have reinstated a policy first put in place by President Ronald Reagan, the Mexico City policy. To protect religious liberty, including protecting groups like this one, I signed a new executive action in a beautiful ceremony at the White House on our National Day of Prayer. Which day we made official. Among many historic steps, the executive order followed through on one of my most important campaign promises to so many of you, to prevent the horrendous Johnson Amendment from interfering with your First Amendment rights. Thank you. We will not allow government workers to censor sermons or target our pastors, our ministers, our rabbis. These are the people we want to hear from, and they're not going to be silenced any longer. Just last week, based on this executive action, the Department of Justice issued a new guidance to all federal agencies to ensure that no religious group is ever targeted under my administration. Won't happen. We have also taken action to protect the conscience rights of groups like the Little Sisters of the Poor. You know what they went through? What they went through. They were going through hell, and then all of a sudden they won. They said, how did that happen? We want to really point out that the Little Sisters of the Poor and other people of faith, they live by a beautiful calling, and we will not let bureaucrats take away that calling or take away their rights. We are stopping cold the attacks on Judeo-Christian values. Thank you. Thank you very much. And something I said so much during the last 2 years, but I'll say it again as we approach the end of the year. You know, we're getting near that beautiful Christmas season that people don't talk about anymore. They don't use the word Christmas because it's not politically correct. You go to department stores and they'll say Happy New Year and they'll say other things and it'll be red. They'll have it painted, but they don't say, well, guess what? We're saying Merry Christmas again. And as a Christmas gift to all of our hardworking families, we hope Congress will pass massive tax cuts for the American people. That includes increasing the child tax credit and expanding it to eliminate the marriage penalty. Because we know that the American family is the true bedrock of American life. So true. This is such an exciting event because we are really working very hard, and hopefully Congress will come through. You saw what we did yesterday with respect to health care. It's step by step by step. And that was a very big step yesterday. Another big step was taken the day before yesterday. And one by one, it's going to come down, and we're going to have great health care in our country. We are going to have great health care in our country. We're taking a little different route than we had hoped because getting Congress, they forgot what their pledges were. So we're going a little different route. But you know what? In the end, it's going to be just as effective, and maybe it'll even be better. For too long, politicians have tried to centralize the authority among the hands of a small few in our nation's capital. Bureaucrats think they can run your lives, overrule your values, meddle in your faith, and tell you how to live, what to say, and how to pray. But we know that parents, not bureaucrats, know best how to raise their children and create a thriving society. We know that faith and prayer, not federal regulation, and by the way, we are cutting regulations at a clip that nobody has ever seen before. Nobody. In 9 months, we have cut more regulation than any president has cut during their term in office. So we are doing a job. And that is one of the major reasons, in addition to the enthusiasm for manufacturing and business and jobs, and the jobs are coming back. That's one of the major reasons, regulation, what we've done, that the stock market has just hit an all-time historic high. That just on the public markets, we've made since Election Day $5.2 trillion in value. Think of that, $5.2 trillion. And as you've seen, the level of enthusiasm is the highest it's ever been, and we have a 17-year low in unemployment. So we're doing really some work. We know that it's the family and the church, not government officials, that know best how to create strong and loving communities. And above all else, we know this. In America, we don't worship government, we worship God. Inspired by that conviction, we are returning moral clarity to our view of the world and the many grave challenges we face. This afternoon, in a little while, I'll be giving a speech on Iran, a terrorist nation like few others, and I think you're going to find it very interesting. Yesterday, things happened with Pakistan. And I have openly said Pakistan took tremendous advantage of our country for many years. But we're starting to have a real relationship with Pakistan, and they're starting to respect us as a nation again, and so are other nations. They are starting to respect the United States of America again, and I appreciate that. And I want to thank the leaders of Pakistan for what they've been doing. In this administration, we will call evil by its name. We stand with our friends and allies. We forge new partnerships in pursuit of peace. And we take decisive action against those who would threaten our people with harm. And we will be decisive, because we know that the first duty of government is to serve its citizens. We are defending our borders, protecting our workers, and enforcing our laws. You see it every single day like you haven't seen it in many, many years, if you've seen it at all. In protecting America's interests abroad, we will always support our cherished friend and partner, the State of Israel. We will confront the dangers that imperil our nation, our allies, and the world, including the threat of radical Islamic terrorism. We have made great strides against ISIS, tremendous strides. I don't know if you've seen what's going on, but tremendous strides against ISIS. They never got hit like this before. Stand up. Stand up. Let me. He's a rough guy. I can see it. But they've been just ruthless, and they've ruthlessly slaughtered innocent Christians, along with the vicious killing of innocent Muslims and other religious minorities. And we've made their lives very, very difficult, believe me. We've done more against ISIS in 9 months than the previous administration's done during its whole administration. By far, by far. And ISIS is now being dealt one defeat after another. We're confronting rogue regimes from Iran to North Korea, and we are challenging the communist dictatorship of Cuba and the socialist oppression of Venezuela, and we will not lift the sanctions on these repressive regimes until they restore political and religious freedom for their people. All of these bad actors share a common enemy, the one force they cannot stop, the force deep within our souls, and that is the power of hope. That is why, in addition to our great military might, our enemies truly fear the United States, because our people never lose faith, never give in, and always hope for a better tomorrow. Last week, Melania and I were reminded of this in a powerful way when we traveled to Las Vegas. We visited a hospital where some of the survivors were recovering from absolutely horrific wounds. We met a young man named Brady Cook. He's 22, and a brand new police officer. That night was Brady's second day in field training, his second day as a policeman. Can you believe that? But when the shooting began, he did not hesitate. He acted with incredible courage, rushing into the hail of bullets, and he was badly shot in his shoulder. This is what Brady said. I didn't expect it, but it's what I signed up for. When stuff goes down, I want to be there to face evil and to protect the good, innocent people that need it. And here's a young guy, great guy, and second day. He said, Brady, don't worry about it. It's going to be easier from here. Brady's a hero, and he can't wait to get back on the job. Several weeks before, when Hurricane Harvey hit Houston, a local furniture store owner, who's known in Texas as Mattress Mac, decided he had to help. When the rain began to flood the streets of the city, he sent out his furniture trucks to rescue the stranded. He brought them back to his stores and gave them food and a clean, dry place to stay, even if it meant ruining countless dollars worth of furniture. As Mattress Mac put it, my faith defines me. It's who I am. We can afford the cost. We can't afford what we can't. And he said this very strongly. What we can't afford is to cause people to lose hope. In Brady and Mac, we see the strength of the American spirit. This spirit of courage and compassion is all around us every day. It is the heartbeat of our great nation. And despite certain coverage, that beat is stronger than it's ever been before. You see right through it. That beat is stronger than it's ever been. We see this spirit in the men and women who selflessly enlist in our armed forces and really who go out and risk their lives for God and for country. And we see it in the mothers and the fathers who get up at the crack of dawn. They work 2 jobs and sometimes 3 jobs. They sacrifice every day for the furniture and future of their children. They have to go out. They go out, they work. The future of their children is everything to them. They put it before everything. And they make sure that the future of their children has God involved in it. So important to them. We see it in the church communities that come together to care for one another, to pray for each other, and to stand strong with each other in times of need. The people who grace our lives and fill our homes and build our communities are the true strength of our nation and the greatest hope for a better tomorrow. As long as we have pride in our country, confidence in our future, and faith in our God, then America will prevail. We will defeat every evil, overcome every threat, and meet every single challenge. We will defend our faith and protect our traditions. We will find the best in each other and in ourselves. We will pass on the blessings of liberty and the glories of God to our children. Our values will endure. Our nation will thrive. Our citizens will flourish. And our freedom will triumph. Thank you to the Value Voters Summit.
All right, folks, so I want to give you guys a quick update on what's going on. You guys are going to see a screen that says live stream coming soon right now as we prepare for President Trump's speech at the ASEAN Leaders Summit in the Philippines. President Donald Trump earlier today met with Filipino President Duterte, or however you say his name, And he actually spoke. Let me show you guys real quick before we start that live stream of what he actually said as we wait for the live stream to start to come up. And this is the Filipino president and what he said when he opened up his the summit earlier today. If you guys missed it, as again, as we wait for President Trump to start his speech. So hold on, give me 1 second as I put it up on your screen. So President Donald Trump's speech is set to start soon. Don't go anywhere. We are waiting for the live stream from President Trump in the Philippines. So it should be starting soon. Thank you.
Assembly Speaker Chung, distinguished members of this Assembly, ladies and gentlemen, thank you for the extraordinary privilege to speak in this great chamber and to address your people on behalf of the people of the United States of America. In our short time in your country, Melania and I have been awed by its ancient, modern wonders, and we are deeply moved by the warmth of your welcome. Last night, President and Mrs. Moon showed us incredible hospitality in a beautiful reception at the Blue House. We had productive discussions on increasing military cooperation and improving the trade relationship between our nations on the principle of fairness and reciprocity. Through this entire visit, it has been both our pleasure and our honor to create and celebrate a long friendship between the United States and the Republic of Korea. This alliance between our nations was forged in the crucible of war and strengthened by the trials of history. From the Incheon landings to Pork Chop Hill, American and South Korean soldiers have fought together, sacrificed together, and triumphed together. Almost 67 years ago, in the spring of 1951, they recaptured what remained of this city where we are gathered so proudly today. It was the second time in a year that our combined forces took on steep casualties to retake this capital from the communists. Over the next weeks and months, the men soldiered through steep mountains and bloody, bloody battles. Driven back at times, they will their way north to form the line that today divides the oppressed and the free. And there, American and South Korean troops have remained together holding that line for nearly 7 decades. By the time the armistice was signed in 1953, more than 36,000 Americans had died in the Korean War, with more than 100,000 others very badly wounded. They are heroes, and we honor them. We also honor and remember the terrible price the people of your country paid for their freedom. You lost hundreds of thousands of brave soldiers and countless innocent civilians in that gruesome war. Much of this great city of Seoul was reduced to rubble. Large portions of the country were scarred, severely, severely hurt by this horrible war. The economy of this nation was demolished. But as the entire world knows, over the next 2 generations, something miraculous happened on the southern half of this peninsula. Family by family, city by city, the people of South Korea built this country into what is today one of the great nations of the world, and I congratulate you. In less than 1 lifetime, South Korea climbed from total devastation to among the wealthiest nations on earth. Today, your economy is more than 350 times larger than what it was in 1960. Trade has increased 1,900 times. Life expectancy has risen from just 53 years to more than 82 years today. Like Korea, and since my election exactly 1 year ago today, I celebrate with you. The United States is going through something of a miracle itself. Our stock market is at an all-time high. Unemployment is at a 17-year low. We are defeating ISIS. We are strengthening our judiciary, including a brilliant Supreme Court justice, and on and on and on. Currently stationed in the vicinity of this peninsula are the 3 largest aircraft carriers in the world, loaded to the maximum with magnificent F-35 and F-18 fighter jets. In addition, we have nuclear submarines appropriately positioned. The United States, under my administration, is completely rebuilding its military and is spending hundreds of billions of dollars to the newest and finest military equipment anywhere in the world being built right now. I want peace through strength. We are helping the Republic of Korea far beyond what any other country has ever done. And in the end, we will work things out far better than anybody understands or can even appreciate. I know that the Republic of Korea, which has become a tremendously successful nation, will be a faithful ally of the United States very long into the future. What you have built is truly an inspiration. Your economic transformation was linked to a political one. The proud, sovereign, and independent people of your nation demanded the right to govern themselves. You secured free parliamentary elections in 1988, the same year you hosted your first Olympics. Soon after, you elected your first civilian president in more than 3 decades. And when the republic you won faced financial crisis, you lined up by the millions to give your most prized possessions, your wedding rings, heirlooms, and gold luck keys, to restore the promise of a better future for your children. Your wealth is measured in more than money. It is measured in achievements of the mind and achievements of spirit. Over the last several decades, your scientists have engineered so many magnificent things. You've pushed the boundaries of technology, pioneered miraculous medical treatments, and emerged as leaders in unlocking the mysteries of our universe. Korean authors penned roughly 40,000 books this year. Korean musicians fill concert halls all around the world. Young Korean students graduate from college at the highest rates of any country. And Korean golfers are some of the best on earth. In fact, and you know what I'm going to say, the women's US Open was held this year at Trump National Golf Club in Bedminster, New Jersey, and it just happened to be won by a great Korean golfer, Sung Hyun Park, and 8 of the top 10 players were from Korea. And the top 4 golfers, 1, 2, 3, 4, the top 4 were from Korea. Congratulations. Congratulations. And that's something. That is really something. Here in Seoul, architectural wonders like the 63 building and the Lotte World Tower, very beautiful, grace the sky and house the workers of many growing industries. Your citizens now help to feed the hungry, fight terrorism, and solve problems all over the world. And in a few months, you will host the world, and you will do a magnificent job at the 23rd Olympic Winter Games. Good luck. The Korean miracle extends exactly as far as the armies of free nations advanced in 1953, 25 miles to the north. There it stops. It all comes to an end. Dead stop. The flourishing ends, and the prison state of North Korea sadly begins. Workers in North Korea labor grueling hours in unbearable conditions for almost no pay. Recently, the entire working population was ordered to work for 70 days straight, or else pay for a day of rest. Families live in homes without plumbing, and fewer than half have electricity. Parents bribe teachers in hopes of saving their sons and daughters from forced labor. More than 1 million North Koreans died of famine in the 1990s, and more continue to die of hunger today. Among children under the age of 5, nearly 30% of afflicted and are afflicted by stunted growth due to malnutrition. And yet, in 2012 and 2013, the regime spent an estimated $200 million, or almost half the money that it allocated to improve living standards for its people, to instead build even more monuments, towers, and statues to glorify its dictators. What remains of the meager harvest of the North Korean economy is distributed according to perceived loyalty to a twisted regime. Far from valuing its people as equal citizens, this cruel dictatorship measures them, scores them, and ranks them based on the most arbitrary indications of their allegiance to the state. Those who score the highest in loyalty may live in the capital city. Those who score the lowest starve. A small infraction by one citizen, such as accidentally staining a picture of the tyrant printed in a discarded newspaper, can wreck the social credit rank of his entire family for many decades. An estimated 100,000 North Koreans suffer in gulags, toiling in forced labor, and enduring torture, starvation, rape, and murder on a constant basis. In one known instance, a 9-year-old boy was imprisoned for 10 years because his grandfather was accused of treason. In another, a student was beaten in school for forgetting a single detail about the life of Kim Jong-un. Soldiers have kidnapped foreigners and forced them to work as language tutors for North Korean spies. In the part of Korea that was a stronghold for Christianity before the war, Christians and other people of faith who were found praying or holding a religious book of any kind are now detained, tortured, and in many cases, even executed. North Korean women are forced to abort babies that are considered ethnically inferior. And if these babies are born, the newborns are murdered. One woman's baby, born to a Chinese father, was taken away in a bucket. The guard said it did not deserve to live because it was impure. So why would China feel an obligation to help North Korea? The horror of life in North Korea is so complete that citizens pay bribes to government officials to have themselves exported aboard as slaves. They would rather be slaves than live in North Korea. To attempt to flee is a crime punishable by death. One person who escaped remarked, "When I think about it now, I was not a human being. I was more like an animal. Only after leaving North Korea did I realize what life was supposed to be." And so, on this peninsula, we have watched the results of a tragic experiment in a laboratory of history. It is a tale of one people, but two Koreas. One Korea in which the people took control of their lives and their country and chose a future of freedom and justice, of civilization and incredible achievement. And another Korea in which leaders imprisoned their people under the banner of tyranny, fascism, and oppression. The result of this experiment are in, and they are totally conclusive. When the Korean War began in 1950, the two Koreas were approximately equal in GDP per capita. But by the 1990s, South Korea's wealth had surpassed North Korea's by more than 10 times. And today, the South's economy is over 40 times larger. So you started the same a short while ago, and now you're 40 times larger. You're doing something right. Considering the misery wrought by the North Korean dictatorship, it is no surprise that it has been forced to take increasingly desperate measures to prevent its people from understanding this brutal contrast. Because the regime fears the truth above all else, it forbids virtually all contact with the outside world. Not just my speech today, but even the most commonplace facts of South Korean life are forbidden knowledge to the North Korean people. Western and South Korean music is banned. Possession of foreign media is a crime, punishable by death. Citizens spy on fellow citizens. Their homes are subject to search at any time, and their every action is subject to surveillance. In place of a vibrant society, the people of North Korea are bombarded by state propaganda practically every waking hour of the day. North Korea is a country ruled as a cult. At the center of this military cult is a deranged belief in the leader's destiny to rule as parent protector over a conquered Korean peninsula and an enslaved Korean people. The more successful South Korea becomes, the more decisively you discredit the dark fantasy at the heart of the Kim regime. In this way, the very existence of a thriving South Korean republic threatens the very survival of the North Korean dictatorship. This city and this assembly are living proof that a free and independent Korea not only can, but does stand strong, sovereign, and proud among the nations of the world. Here, the strength of the nation does not come from the false glory of a tyrant. It comes from the true and powerful glory of a strong and great people, the people of the Republic of Korea. A Korean people who are free to live, to flourish, to worship, to love, to build, and to grow their own destiny. In this republic, the people have done what no dictator ever could. You took, with the help of the United States, responsibility for yourselves and ownership of your future. You had a dream, a Korean dream, and you built that dream into a great reality. In so doing, you performed the miracle on the Han that we see all around us, from the stunning skyline of Seoul to the plains and peaks of this beautiful landscape. You have done it freely. You have done it happily. And you have done it in your own very beautiful way. This reality, this wonderful place, your success is the greatest cause of anxiety, alarm, and even panic to the North Korean regime. That is why the Kim regime seeks conflict abroad to distract from total failure that they suffer at home. Since the so-called armistice, there have been hundreds of North Korean attacks on Americans and South Koreans. These attacks have included the capture and torture of the brave American soldiers of the USS Pueblo, repeated assaults on American helicopters, and the 1969 drowning of a U.S. surveillance plane that killed 31 American servicemen. The regime has made numerous lethal incursions in South Korea, attempted to assassinate senior leaders, attacked South Korean ships, and tortured Otto Warmbier, ultimately leading to that fine young man's death. All the while, the regime has pursued nuclear weapons with the deluded hope that it could blackmail its way to the ultimate objective. And that objective, we are not going to let it have. We are not going to let it have. All of Korea is under that spell, divided in half. South Korea will never allow what's going on in North Korea to continue to happen. The North Korean regime has pursued its nuclear and ballistic missile programs in defiance of every assurance, agreement, and commitment it has made to the United States and its allies. It's broken all of those commitments. After promising to freeze its plutonium program in 1994, it repeated the benefits of the deal and then immediately continued its illicit nuclear activities. In 2005, after years of diplomacy, the dictatorship agreed to ultimately abandon its nuclear programs and return to the Treaty on Non-Proliferation. But it never did, and worse, it tested the very weapons it said it was going to give up. In 2009, the United States gave negotiations yet another chance and offered North Korea the open hand of engagement. The regime responded by sinking a South Korean Navy ship, killing 46 Korean sailors. To this day, it continues to launch missiles over the sovereign territory of Japan and all other neighbors, test nuclear devices, and develop ICBMs to threaten the United States itself. The regime has interpreted America's past restraint as weakness. This would be a fatal miscalculation. This is a very different administration than the United States has had in the past. Today, I hope I speak not only for our countries, but for all civilized nations when I say to the North, do not underestimate us and do not try us. We will defend our common security, our shared prosperity, and our sacred liberty. We did not choose to draw here on this peninsula. This magnificent peninsula, the thin line of civilization that runs around the world and down through time. But here it was drawn, and here it remains to this day. It is the line between peace and war, between decency and depravity, between law and tyranny, between hope and total despair. It is a line that has been drawn many times in many places throughout history. To hold that line is a choice free nations have always had to make. We have learned together the high cost of weakness and the high stakes of its defense. America's men and women in uniform have given their lives in the fight against Nazism, imperialism, communism, and terrorism. America does not seek conflict or confrontation, but we will never run from it. History is filled with discarded regimes that have foolishly tested America's resolve. Anyone who doubts the strength or determination of the United States should look to our past, and you will doubt it no longer. We will not permit America or our allies to be blackmailed or attacked. We will not allow American cities to be threatened with destruction. We will not be intimidated, and we will not let the worst atrocities in history be repeated here on this ground we fought and died so hard to secure. That is why I come here to the heart of a free and flourishing Korea with a message for the peace-loving nations of the world. The time for excuses is over. Now is the time for strength. If you want peace, you must stand strong at all times. The world cannot tolerate the menace of a rogue regime that threatens with nuclear devastation. All responsible nations must join forces to isolate the brutal regime of North Korea, to deny it, and any form of it, you cannot support, you cannot supply, you cannot accept. We call on every nation, including China and Russia, to fully implement UN Security Council resolutions, downgrade diplomatic relations with the regime, and sever all ties of trade and technology. It is our responsibility and our duty to confront this danger together, because the longer we wait, the greater the danger grows and the fewer the options become. And to those nations that choose to ignore this threat, or worse still, to enable it, the weight of this crisis is on your conscience. I also have come here to this peninsula to deliver a message directly to the leader of the North Korean dictatorship. The weapons you are acquiring are not making you safer. They are putting your regime in grave danger. Every step you take down this dark path increases the peril you face. North Korea is not the paradise your grandfather envisioned. It is a hell that no person deserves. Yet, despite every crime you have committed against God and man, you are ready to offer, and we will do that. We will offer a path to a much better future. It begins with an end to the aggression of your regime, a stop to your development of ballistic missiles, and complete, verifiable, and total denuclearization. A skytop view of this peninsula shows a nation of dazzling light in the south and a mass of impenetrable darkness in the north. We seek a future of light, prosperity, and peace, but we are only prepared to discuss this brighter path for North Korea if its leaders cease their threats and dismantle their nuclear program. The sinister regime of North Korea is right about only one thing. The Korean people do have a glorious destiny, but they could not be more wrong about what that destiny looks like. The destiny of the Korean people is not to suffer in the bondage of oppression, but to thrive in the glory of freedom. What South Koreans have achieved on this peninsula is more than a victory for your nation. It is a victory for every nation that believes in the human spirit. And it is our hope that someday soon, all of your brothers and sisters in the North will be able to enjoy the fullest of life intended by God. Your republic shows us all of
All right, folks, that I wanted to come on the microphone and apologize to you folks that it's taking forever. First, it says it was scheduled about 20 minutes ago. Then they said it was going to be 10 minutes later. And right now it's 9:22 here in the Pacific. And the time for it to start, it's still up for... they're saying that it should start in exactly 30 minutes. So if you guys are still interested, it should start in around 30 minutes. Hopefully it starts before that. Hopefully we'll have footage before that. Again, we apologize. It is not our fault. They keep on pushing it back for whatever reason, but it's, you know, it's government, and stupid government is always like that. They never start on time. They're just stupid. They're very, very stupid. They never start on time. They always start late. They make excuses for it. And, you know, it is what it is. But if you're still interested in staying here with us, thank you very much. Please give the live stream a thumbs up. And make sure you guys share it on social media. Again, it should start soon. As it says, in roughly 30 minutes, but we're going to have the footage of what's going on way before those 30 minutes. But President Trump is scheduled to start in exactly 30 minutes, hopefully. Again, we apologize, but it is what it is. So thank you very much.
What an honor it is to be here in Vietnam, in the very heart of the Indo-Pacific, to address the people and business leaders of this region. This has already been a remarkable week for the United States in this wonderful part of the world. Starting from Hawaii, Melania and I traveled to Japan, South Korea, and China, and now to Vietnam to be here with all of you today. Before we begin, I want to address all those affected by Typhoon Damre. Americans are praying for you and for your recovery in the months ahead. Our hearts are united with the Vietnamese people suffering in the aftermath of this terrible storm. This trip comes at an exciting time for America. A new optimism has swept all across our country. Economic growth has reached 3.2% and going higher. Unemployment is at its lowest level in 17 years. The stock market is at an all-time high. And the whole world is lifted by America's renewal. Everywhere I've traveled on this journey, I've had the pleasure of sharing the good news from America. But even more, I've had the honor of sharing our vision for a free and open Indo-Pacific a place where sovereign and independent nations with diverse cultures and many different dreams can prosper side by side and thrive in freedom and in peace. I am so thrilled to be here today at APEC because this organization was founded to help achieve that very purpose. America stands as a proud member of the community of nations who make a home on the Pacific. We have been an active partner in this region since we first won independence ourselves. In 1784, the first American ship sailed to China from the newly independent United States. It went loaded with goods to sell in Asia, and it came back full of porcelain and tea. Our first president, George Washington himself, owned a set of tableware from that ship. In 1804, Thomas Jefferson sent the explorers Lewis and Clark on an
All right, folks, so we have footage of inside the venue where President Trump is set to speak at the ASEAN summit. So it'll be coming up on your screen in just 1 second, and we'll go on from there. Thank you very much for your patience, and here we go.
Such pressure. Our industrialization pathways will come under pressure at the cost of automation as
All right, so this is live, folks. This is live.
likely the ASEAN's export story will struggle. If we see jobs disappearing, it will drive up inequality and breed discontent and instability. But if ASEAN can position itself properly, the fourth industrial revolution could be primarily a powerful tool or powerful force for prosperity. So now, my second point is how should we respond to the fourth industrial revolution? Many nations are already acting. Thailand has its Thailand 4.0 strategy. Singapore has its Smart Nation strategy. Malaysia recently launched its Digital Free Trade Zone. But responding at a national level is not enough. ASEAN must think at a regional level. Consider the treatment of data. The 4IR is built on data, but data needs to flow easily across national borders. If not, countries will miss out on the huge opportunities of the 4IR. For example, the Internet of Things is allowing companies to monitor machinery like jet engines and adjust performance in real time from remote areas. Telemedicine is letting farmers in Myanmar access health services from doctors in the Philippines. None of these business models will work if data cannot move between countries. Of course, there are important concerns about data privacy and security. There are also questions about how to collect tax in this new world and how to apply legal protections to consumers when services are provided across borders. This is why ASEAN must respond to the 4IR from a regional perspective, not a national one. We must craft regulations that work across countries. One aspect of the fourth industrial revolution that is critical to the business community is no doubt the question of scale. In the past, we had diminishing returns to scale. But under the 4IR, the cost of adding just an extra customer is approaching zero. Instead of diminishing returns, we see network effects. Just look at Google or Facebook or Tencent. The more customers you have, the more profitable you become. For us here in ASEAN, this is troubling. Companies in America and China grow big because they have giant domestic markets. And because they are big, they have the resources to invest in innovation. But in ASEAN, we struggle because our home markets are small. In a world where size is becoming so important, ASEAN companies must be allowed to grow to regional scale to stay competitive. We need more commitment to the ASEAN single market. So the third point I want to make is about the ASEAN institutions, how we give more commitment to this single market. Are our institutions equipped to adopt a regional approach to the fourth industrial revolution. Without question, ASEAN organization has done a fantastic job promoting regional prosperity, but the future will be very, very different. The ASEAN way needs an upgrade. We must keep the best parts of it, the importance of sovereignty, consensus, and so on, but we need an upgrade. In particular, we must improve the ability of the ASEAN Secretariat to craft and implement new policy. We need to strengthen the Secretariat. How can we achieve this? Well, our report makes 7 specific recommendations. I will just highlight 2. The first is to turn the ASEAN Secretariat into a platform organization. Think of Apple or Android operating systems on your phones. In both cases, Apple and Google run the platform on which third parties develop the apps. Apple and Google govern the platform, but they let third parties develop the apps. In a similar way, the ASEAN Secretariat could become the operating system for regional integration. The Secretariat would govern the platform for regional integration, but third parties would do the job of developing policies and regulation. These third parties would be multi-stakeholder groups with deep expertise. For example, if ASEAN wanted to write rules for self-driving cars, they would convene a group of regulators, car makers, insurance companies, urban designers, and so on. This group would do the work of creating the new policies. Meanwhile, the ASEAN Secretariat would ensure the group worked in the right way. The Secretariat will make sure they are obeying the rules of the operating system, i.e. crafting regulations in the right way and consulting the right people. The platform model will allow the Secretariat to harness the resources of a wider group of people and to make them work in a standardized fashion. A second recommendation in the report is to increase the funding of the Secretariat. Today, all countries contribute the same amount, 2 million a year, giving a budget of about 20 million US dollars. This is not enough. By some estimates, ASEAN needs at least $220 million a year. Many of the goals of ASEAN, like the ASEAN Economic Community, are a long way behind schedule. As the fourth industrial revolution unfolds, we risk falling further behind. So our report recommends a funding model based on the size of country GDPs, with the big economies paying more than the smaller economies, like we have at the United Nations. So, ladies and gentlemen, in summary, our report contains 3 key points. First, under the fourth industrial revolution, we face massive disruption. ASEAN must get ahead of these changes. Second, the nations of ASEAN must respond to the fourth industrial revolution at the regional level, not just at the national level. And third, in order to craft a regional response, we need to reform our ASEAN institutions. Finally, let me end with a request. This report is merely a starting point. It serves to raise awareness and highlight possibilities. What we need from here is action. So my request to ASEAN leaders is that we set up a working group to take this forward. The working group made up of regional stakeholders. Their goal would be to reflect deeply on the impact of the fourth industrial revolution on our region, and more importantly, to examine the modus operandi of our ASEAN institutions to cope. If we do not act, ladies and gentlemen, ASEAN will suffer in the fourth industrial revolution. But if we take proactive steps, then we will not only survive, but I believe we can thrive. Thank you for listening.
Thank you for those insights. And can I ask Minister Mustafa to give a response? Yes, Minister Mustafa.
And the floor will be open. Minister, And the ministers are on their way in. Minister, just a few response on the fourth industrial revolution. And there will be, of course, the opportunity to ask Justin and the RSG chair any other hard questions. We hope you have some hard questions for this World Economic Forum group.
Honorable Ministers, Secretariat of ASEAN, Sri Leung Min, distinguished business leaders from ASEAN. This came as a surprise to me. It wasn't my brief. That this is what ASEAN is all about. ASEAN is about surprises. So this is one of them. I've been asked to say a few words about the fourth industrial revolution. I must say I listened to Nazir just a few minutes, enough for me to give you a quick response. He made reference to Singapore, Thailand, and Malaysia. This is one that I think I've got to agree with him, that we haven't got a coordinated response yet. It is important for us to work together. This is a matter of priority. The ASEAN economic ministers, we raised the subject. We acknowledge the fact that we are slow in responding. Yeah, we have some of us have got our own national plans in responding to the fourth industrial revolution. But Nazir's point, I think, is for us to get our act together and come up with a coordinated response to this very important challenge. I know that in Davos, there's been a lot of work at the World Economic Forum. Perhaps there can be some interaction between people in Davos and some of us. We in Malaysia are keen to come on board. Yeah? I've been doing some work in my country, getting people together. Firstly, to understand what this whole thing is all about. I think we have to make sure that SMEs know what the fourth industrial revolution is all about. We have to get government officials and policymakers. So what we did earlier this year was to get all the policymakers throughout the country to know, to brief what this whole issue is all about. We got over 700 SMEs to listen to some experts. That was a good start, and we need to transmit this message throughout the country. So I agree with you that we ministers have got to get together in Singapore perhaps next year when Singapore is chair of ASEAN. It is certainly very important to deliberate on this subject and come up with a coordinated response. So that's all I have. Our leaders are coming in the next few minutes. I know that some of you are hungry. Enjoy your lunch. Thank you.
We wish to also acknowledge the Minister for Investment and the Chair of BKPM, Thomas Lembong of Indonesia, who is present in the room. No? Okay. We thank the Minister of International Trade and Industry of Malaysia. The other ministers are on their way in. Any other questions or comments? So, Justin, any other comments? We wish to acknowledge the 9 ASEAN RSG ministerial members. Mr. Ramon Lopez is currently with the President in his bilateral with President Trump. They are on their way here. And so I think if we cannot entice any question from any minister or ABAC member or comment. Yes? Tony. Oh, we must listen to Tony. If the minister members of the RSG are not going to speak, then we call on other ASEAN RSG members. We have, of course, Jaza right here in the number 10 on the list. A few words, and of course, Tessie, and of course, Tony. Tony, we call on you first as an RSG member to please a few remarks.
I'm probably more unprepared than my minister, actually. But anyway, just to echo what Nazir said, I'm a big believer in ASEAN. And obviously AirAsia has built an airline based on ASEAN, from 2 planes to now 200 planes. But I think a lot more can be done. Simple things like an ASEAN visa, which we've been asking for a very long time, to more complicated things like standardization and regulation. But I think underpinning it, what Nazir has said with the World Economic Forum report is a stronger ASEAN Secretariat with a bigger budget, helped by specialist groups to draft legislation. I think that's urgently needed for ASEAN to really be one economic unit and benefit from the 700 million people. Right now, though, we've made lots of progress, we haven't really fully utilized the strength of this market. And I think as China and India are growing quicker and quicker, we may lose that momentum. So to the ministers here, Minister Mustafa, please hurry up. Don't have lunch. Thank you. It's my only chance to say this to a minister, so before I get told off. Thank you very much.
Yes, I think Tony got it right. The whole idea is you have 15 to 20 minutes with the leaders and ministers right at your table. It's the best time to speak your piece or your message. But while they're finishing their dessert and coffee, we still have a few minutes before we call on the 10 chairs. I am alerting the 10 ABAC chairs that Joey will lead you shortly. Before the leaders come in, they actually have an opportunity. Not yet now, I'm just alerting the 10 ABAC chairs that they will exit the room but not now, not now. So is the SecGen of ASEAN here? I see that, okay. So the other speaker we wish to acknowledge is, of course, our venerable ASEAN Secretary General. Could we invite you, please, for a few remarks on the work of the ASEAN BAC? As we all know, the function of today is to give your special report, the ABAC annual report, to the leaders. But I will leave that to the SecGen to further discuss.
We are trying to say that, in our process of community building, especially in the economic community building and integration, the role of the private sector is very important, and it is becoming more and more important. And in this connection, the work by ABAC, is critical, and again, also becoming more and more important. And with regard to the recommendations from Tony, the strengthening of the ASEAN Secretariat, in terms of increasing the resources for the Secretariat to play the more important, greater role. We have all that, in the recommendation by the high-level task force on strengthening ASEAN Secretariat and reviewing the ASEAN organs. The matter is, how the member state will, respond to these recommendations, and it depends on the ministers present here today to, to get the support from the member state. Thank you.
Thank you to the Secretary General. May we invite any ABAC member for further comments? Of course, I may push for a Philippine ABAC member. George Barcelon, our venerable ABAC member. And of course, I see Dr. Munir as well for a few comments. Mr. Barcelon first, please.
Since the topic is about the fourth IR, I think regional integration, I think one area that's very important is about education. We're talking about there's a big digital divide among the ASEAN countries. Some are more advanced using the digital age for their education. And for the ASEAN as a whole, for us to keep pace with the technological change, I think ASEAN as a group can work on that, wherein we can share the best practices or best teaching technique so that the other countries can pick up faster. I know the focus is on economic development, but first and foremost is you must have the human asset. And we have been, in our chamber, we have been advocating that the education side must be given more focus. Thank you.
Dr. Munir, may have a few words.
Ministers, ladies and gentlemen, I mean, if it's on the fourth IR we're talking about, I think the opportunities are great. I mean, there are numbers which show that by 2030, about $1 trillion US dollars would be added to the ASEAN GDP, and that by 2025, by then, the internet economy alone will be about 625 billion. So, you know, the big numbers always excite ASEAN, but there are problems getting there because our education, our training, our retraining, our upskilling all need to be, you know, enhanced tremendously. And there's also a threat to manufacturing employment, particularly manufacturing employment. A study by Kazana Research Institute in Malaysia shows that the probability factor of digitalization replacing employment in semi-skilled and unskilled labor is about 0.8. So 80% chance that people might lose their jobs. So countries lower down the economic ladder will face this challenge in terms of employment. And therefore, you know, I think we have to be aware of both the challenges and the opportunities. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Dr. Munir. We also have the ASEAN BAC of Thailand for a few comments. May I just ask, please proceed. Just the chairs, please. The ABAC chairs can proceed now through this door. Everyone else, please stay in your seats. Just ABAC chairs. Ministers and everyone else, please stay in your seats. Just calling only the 10 ABAC chairs, including the Secretary General of ASEAN and the ABAC Secretariat Head, Gil. So, SecGen of ASEAN, please. No. Now, yes, they're already there. Chief of Protocol, they're already all there.
I have to do it quick. I have to do it quick. Yeah, I have to do it quick. I think it's all good and well for the 4.0, but I think the important key message for the government would be for us to do well in our digital infrastructure. If you do not have a good digital infrastructure, I think, okay, I'll just leave that with you. Thank you.
You are the chair, so you must go. So any Thailand back? So all chairs, please exit the room. Yes. Please close the door. Yes. Doris, I think, so all that's happening now, can we close the door, please? So in 2 minutes, post the official photo, the leaders will now be proceeding to your respective tables. Could we, for protocol, just be ready that your leaders, everyone in, attention please, Attention please for protocol. Could you just ensure that your table has a leader at the table? And the protocol is when they come in, we will just all stand and then have the leaders sit in their respective chairs. And then that's the only thing I have to remind. So just please, when the doors open, you just stand up and then they will proceed to their table. And then you have the informal dialogue. Of course, please have a designated friendly person to take the group photo. I mean, ideally, not one of you at the table. If you have a friend, this is the time to have a friend take the photo. We have Secretary Dominguez, the Secretary of Finance of the Philippines, entering the room. We have the Foreign Minister of Singapore entering the room. Voice over.
Ladies and gentlemen, please rise to welcome His Majesty and Excellencies, the ASEAN heads of state and government. Okay, okay. Okay. Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen, the ASEAN Business Advisory Council is proud to present its report to the ASEAN leaders on the highlights of activities undertaken in support of the Philippine chairmanship of ASEAN in 2017. Excellencies, we have assigned a moderator in each table to facilitate your discussions with council members and private sector guests. We look forward to your active engagement. Thank you.
All right, folks. I really don't know what to say. There's other networks on YouTube that are basically saying the same thing. That we apologize for the fact that the Filipinos don't know what they're doing, and they're completely unreliable. First they say that it's going to start at one time, and then they get pushed back to another time, and now they got pushed back to another time. So I apologize. It's not, it's not something that we're doing, but they keep saying that it's going to start at a certain time, and then they keep pushing it back and back and back. They don't know what they're doing, and it gets me angry because, people have been waiting. You guys have been waiting, and they just keep pushing it back. But as of right now, they say that they're still waiting for President Trump and also for the Filipino president. But they're so unorganized that, we really do not know if they're going to be pushing it back once more. But if you guys still want to wait, we welcome you on the chat, and thank you very much for watching. And like I said, folks, we apologize here at Golden State Times, but the Filipino, what is it called? The ASEAN Summit is just a big mess. They don't know what they're doing. So we'll hope that President Trump does come out at some point in just a few minutes, but that's all we can do for now is hope. So thank you. All right, so it looks like we got the Filipino president in the building. President Trump is set to come in just a few minutes, and there's going to be some, I guess, a small speech. So President Trump is scheduled to start in just a few minutes. We apologize for the lengthy wait, but we're going to be able to see President Trump, and let's see what happens. Thank you very much. Also, make sure to smack the like button and share the stream. As soon as President Trump starts, we'll go there live.
Your Majesty, Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen, the ASEAN Business Advisory Council calls on its 2017 chair, Mr. Jose Maria Concepcion III, to the stage.
Good afternoon. Volume. Good afternoon. Good afternoon, Excellencies, President Rodrigo Duterte, our ministers present here today. First of all, I'd like to thank Your Excellencies for really allowing the private sector to engage with our leadership, your leadership here. It is the first time that we have done such a thing. I am told it's my first year as an ASEAN member and as ASEAN chair. My experience in this endeavor was truly fulfilling, nerve-wracking, lost a lot of weight. I guess it's the part of the stress, and I'm sure our president also is feeling the same thing as host. As we turn over the chairmanship to Singapore, who will, I guess, feel the same stress, good luck. But I think what we've learned here in all of these engagements through the years, and many of you, ministers, prime ministers, have attended our event through the years. Our Malaysian PM, Thailand PM, and of course, just the other day, yesterday, of course, Aung San Suu Kyi, who gave a wonderful speech, inspired a lot of people in our event. And of course, our president, Rodrigo Duterte, who launched AMEN, the ASEAN Mentorship Entrepreneurship Network. This is the first major effort to pool all the mentors from each of the ASEAN countries. We're starting with 143 pioneer mentors, and we intend to see that scale up to close to even 1,000, mentoring micro and small entrepreneurs. The theme of the business sector is parting for change and creating prosperity for all. I think all the leaders in this room and the private sector, this is our vision, to create an equal footage for every citizen out there who wants to aspire for greater prosperity. We should leave no one behind, and in the same statement, we should leave no nation behind. And with the efforts that the private sector and the public sector will do in really fighting poverty, bringing about and using mentorship, money and market, which we have framed as a basic tool to enable our micro and small entrepreneurs. In the end, I guess this is what we are all in this room for. And I'm glad that the relationship that we built in the private sector and in government, with leaders meeting and getting to know each other, becoming friends, the trust level goes much, much higher. And that brings about greater cooperation, greater unity, and greater prosperity. Thank you. I'd like to present the report of the ASEAN Business Advisory Council to our President, Rodrigo Duterte.
May we now invite Dato Sri Nasir Razak to present the report of the World Economic Forum ASEAN Regional Strategic Group to President Rodrigo Roa Duterte.
President Duterte, Your Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen, this year marks the 50th anniversary of ASEAN. It is a moment of justified celebration. I would like to add, firstly, my congratulations to the leaders of ASEAN on all the successes. As we look forwards, we are at the start of the fourth industrial revolution, a new age of profound technological disruption to business, to economies, to society. The future is very uncertain and potentially dangerous. At the World Economic Forum, we have, in partnership with the ASEAN Development Bank, produced a report that examines the fourth industrial revolution and what it will mean to our region. In short, we believe that what got us here won't get us there. We must fully understand the fourth industrial revolution. We must respond, not just at the national level, but at the regional level. And we must reform the ASEAN organization, converting it into a platform organization and increasing the financial resources of ASEAN Secretariat. The report is the first stage. We propose to set up a working group in partnership with regional stakeholders to explore the suggestions from here and report back to the ASEAN heads of state. With that, I'm delighted to have this opportunity to present the report to President Duterte.
Your Majesty, Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen, we now present President Rodrigo Duterte of the Republic of the Philippines.
Kindly sit down. Thank you for the courtesy. Fellow leaders of the ASEAN member states, leaders of the ASEAN Business Advisory Council, ASEAN Secretary General Lee Leong Ming, honorable members of the Diplomatic Corps, Foreign Affairs Secretary Alan Peter Cayetano, one of the members of the Cabinet, other distinguished guests, last but not the least, the World Economic Forum Asian Chair, ladies and gentlemen. Your Majesty, Excellencies, members of the ASEAN Business Advisory Council, on behalf of my fellow Asian leaders, I wish to thank the ASEAN Business Advisory Council for initiating this interface. The ASEAN leaders recognize your role in pushing forward ASEAN Economic Community agenda for freer trade relations and more intra-Asian investments. I commend the ASEAN BAC Chair and members of the Council for your efforts in harnessing private sector feedback and inputs. I believe that mentorship, money, and markets are prerequisites in ensuring the success and sustainability of any business enterprise. That is why I support your strategy of strengthening and integrating these three M's as one cohesive approach in empowering micro, small, and medium industries. You are eager to work and partner with you to prepare the MSMEs as a bridge to open pathways toward global value chains. I likewise support the three interlocking elements that bind your three M's together, which are inclusive business, hard and soft connectivity, infrastructure, and a conducive policy environment for MSMEs. I am particularly pleased to note your tremendous effort to forge alliances with big businesses, both at the national and across ASEAN, to champion inclusive business. MSMEs are considered game changers of the economy as they can offer more options in the market, and their presence also eliminates monopoly of trade and fosters healthy competition in the industry. The leaders stand in close partnership with you in re-energizing the ASEAN economic community. We urge the ASEAN Secretariat and all the consultative working committees under the economic pillar of ASEAN to work closely with ASEAN BAC and its partners to fast-track AAC reform, especially the so-called low-hanging fruits. In conclusion, we commit our deep resolve in putting our collective leadership behind your strategic action agenda. The ASEAN way and your call for a step for posterity for all should now become one and synonymous. Thank you.
All right, folks. Like I said, I'm so sorry about this. I don't know what else to say. It looks like it's done. President Trump never came out, even though they're saying that he still is about to come out. I really do not know. But if President Trump eventually comes out at some point, we will be uploading it on the channel. We're so sorry for doing this, but we tried, and we try to bring you guys up-to-date information, live streams and all that stuff. Whenever the schedule of the White House says that President Trump is set to speak, we bring it to you here live at Golden State Times. So thank you very much for joining us. As I said, if President Trump eventually comes out and something comes out, we will be uploading it on the channel. So we apologize for this. But yeah, so thank you very much for watching. My name is Jenna from Golden State Times. And again, we apologize on behalf of Golden State Times. And we tried. So have a good night, everyone.